Welcome to Brains on Games. I'm Dr. Brian McDonald, and I'm excited today to tell you about a game that's coming up on Kickstarter in October. Now, this is a game where, there are a few retail copies floating around out there, but it is a little hard to find. But once the Kickstarter comes up, you may be able to get on board and pre-order it. It's a game called Project L. This is a game for kids aged 8 and up. It can be played by 1 to 5 players, so there is a solitaire version. And it takes 20 minutes to half an hour to get through a game. Let's take a look at Project L. So I've laid out some of the pieces here. You can't really see the whole board laid out, but each player has a player mat where you're going to be lining up the puzzles that you're going to be working on. You can have up to 4 puzzles at a time. You start the game with only 2 of these little puzzle pieces. These are little plastic chips, and you can see the pictures here on the player mat. They reminded me a lot of Tetris pieces, so it made me feel a little nostalgic for my university days when I used to play Tetris a lot. So you've got these 2 little pieces at the beginning, and you're going to be using them to fill in these puzzles. Now, there are a limited number of black puzzles on the board, and the game's going to end. There'll be 1 round after you run out of these black puzzles in the deck. You're drafting these puzzles. So there's a row of 4 white ones and a row of 4 black ones that you have to choose from. And each player will grab, we'll talk about what the actions are, but each player is going to have up to 4 puzzles that they can be working on at a time. The puzzles have a couple of different rewards. One is that you'll get victory points at the end of the game. The black ones tend to be more complicated puzzles, but they do give you more points. The other bonus is that you get an extra piece that you can use for other puzzles later on. So usually the lower point puzzles will give you better pieces to work with later on, and the higher point ones give you sort of lower level pieces. On your turn in this game, you get to do 3 actions, and they're listed here on the player board. There's a couple of extra actions we're not really going to talk about because the box that I was sent has 2 expansions in it, so there's lots of things that you can do with this game. But you get to do 3 things, and you're choosing from taking a puzzle from the marketplace, if you want to call it that. You can take a puzzle, you can add a piece to a puzzle, you can take a level 1 piece, and the level 1 piece is just that little yellow square. You can upgrade a piece, which means that I could turn in this little green one, which is level 2, and you've got reminders here on your player mat. You can turn in a green one and get one of the level 3, a blue or an orange that has a different shape or that's going to cover a bit of a bigger area of the puzzle that you're working on. Finally, if you have multiple puzzles and lots of pieces to work with, you can do what's called a master action, which allows you to add 1 puzzle piece to each of the puzzles that you're working on. So that's a powerful one. You can only do that once on your turn. This is a game where you're really doing a lot of visual analysis and synthesis. So it's a visual spatial skills kind of a game. Visual analysis, meaning you're breaking down these puzzles into the pieces, and then the synthesis is that you're putting them back together. So let's take a look here at what you might be doing. So you might have a couple of puzzles like this on your board that you're working on. On your turn, like I said, you can add these pieces, okay? And it's so well laid out. I mean, look, you've got these little plastic chips, like I said, they're sturdy and colorful. And the puzzles themselves they have a recessed part to them where you're going to add those pieces. So it's a minimalist design. It's black on black or white on white, and then you flip it over. It's really easy to see what it is that you're trying to build. I think it's well designed. The pieces are sturdy. And so you're doing that analysis. You're trying to figure out which pieces you need. You're also balancing those actions. Often, once the game gets going, you're going to have a bunch of pieces and you'll have a lot of choices over what you can do. There might be puzzles that you can solve, but there's never quite enough actions to do everything that you might like. So there is some fluid reasoning or flexible problem solving that's happening. You might not get the puzzle that you want because another player might draft that one before you get a chance to grab it. And that did happen to me a couple of times when I played. There was a certain piece, and I think I was maybe too obvious about the piece that I wanted. And so my opponent took that puzzle that would have given me the piece as a reward for completing it. Another fluid reasoning element of this game is that you've got those three actions, and there's lots of choices about what you can do. Let's go through a scenario that came up when I was playing this game yesterday, and this is where some of the flexible problem solving comes in. So I had a puzzle like this with an open square, and I did have the right pieces that would allow me to fill that in. Using two actions, I could put the little curved one and the little yellow one in that square and complete the puzzle, and then I would get a green piece as a reward plus 4 points. So this was a good puzzle to finish up. However, I really did want to get one of these square pieces as well, because the square pieces I was finding were very useful for the puzzles that I was building. So rather than use two actions to just fill it in like this, instead I took this level 3 piece. So you can see from the player mat that it's a level 3 piece. I traded it in and upgraded it for that red square, and then my second action allowed me to fill that in. I completed the puzzle. I get all of these pieces back, plus the bonus of a little green piece. So it's if you think ahead about what pieces you might need, you can streamline your actions in that way. You're trying to be efficient. So there is that flexible problem solving element to it. There's lots of ways that you can build these puzzles. Like I said, the pieces are great. The game is sturdy and well designed. My niece, who I was playing with, wanted to take it home right away and play it again. In fact, we played several times in a row just because it's easy to learn, it's easy to play. There's a little bit of thinking and strategy to it, but it's a fairly relaxing kind of a game. And like I said, for me, it reminded me of that old Tetris game, except once the holes are filled in that puzzle, I got to keep all the pieces and use them for another puzzle. So after the last of these black puzzles is pulled out of the deck and placed into the market, that's what triggers the final rounds of the game. You'll finish going around so everyone has the same number of turns, and then you'll do one final round to complete as many puzzles as you can. After that final round, there's like a cleanup kind of a period that you do where you take any leftover pieces you have and you fill in any empty spots in the puzzles that you have in front of you. You lose 1 point for each piece that you place that way, though. So you might be able to complete a puzzle, but you're losing points as you're adding those extra pieces. So you do need to think a little bit ahead in terms of how many puzzles and how many pieces you have available and what's going on your player mat as that black pile of puzzles is starting to dwindle. And so when you're thinking ahead and planning ahead, you already know that's an executive functioning skill that you're using. So, and it seems like executive functioning and fluid reasoning often do go together. So there's a little bit of executive functioning as well as the fluid reasoning and the visual spatial problem solving in Project L. So I have to thank BoardCubator for sending me this game. BoardCubator.com is their website. Project L is going to show up on Kickstarter in just a few weeks in October, so you'll be able to track it down at that point. I mentioned at the beginning that there were some expansions in the game. Those weren't actually included in the box that I have. Those moves were mentioned on the player mat, but they weren't included in the box. One of them I think is really neat. It adds higher level pieces, larger pieces called ghost pieces that can be traded in for multiple smaller pieces if you have some ghost pieces on your board. As usual, if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions for me, you know where to find me. I'm at brian@brainsongames.ca. Brainsongames.ca is the website. That's where you'll find all the previous videos, and future videos will be posted there too. Brains on Games is the Twitter handle and the Instagram feed. It's the Facebook page. You can find us all over the place. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to be notified of future ones, head on over to YouTube and click that subscribe button. Thanks for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time.